Hey everyone, it's Kate. I'm back to wearing my mask, but we'll figure out our technical difficulties next time. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really fun diamond table runner. This one is out of the swatch fabrics from our fall 2020 quilting cotton swatch card. But I'm going to show you using some other fallish, really fun fabrics that we just got in that we're super excited about. So I'm going to have Lane come around. And the first thing I did was grab this really nice book that we carry, Plan to Quilt and Quilt to Plan. And I know, it's such a cute name. But when I plan a quilt, I love using this because you can glue all your fabrics to the first page, and then she includes a ton of graph paper, which I need. I kind of come up with some ideas, do a little math, and then I decided on this one with the diamonds kind of staggered. So that's how I planned it. And I used Deb Tucker's V-Block ruler, and I'm going to show you how to use this ruler. It's super fun, just like all of her rulers. And then I'm just going to talk about making decisions on how to lay out your block, and I'm going to show you how to kind of chain piece more than a 9-unit block, and harken back to last Saturday's video about chain piecing a 9-unit block. So the cool thing about Deb Tucker's rulers is that they really have all the information you need to make. This one makes 11 different sizes of V-block units. And a V-block unit is just, it looks like this. This is a very strange angle. It's like 37.3 or something. Nothing that you could use a regular ruler for. So she has it all figured out for you. So the first thing you want to do is decide what your finished unit is going to be. So I'm making a whole bunch of 4-inch finished units. And so it tells me that I should cut 5-inch strips for both the side triangles and the center triangles. And I've cut some 5-inch strips, and her instructions are really nice. So for this table runner, all of the center triangles are a print and all of the side triangles are this solid. And even though I've kind of started cutting this strip, I'm going to show you what the first cut looks like. So let's just pretend that this is your first edge. It's a straight edge. What you do is you just fold it over, and you don't want it to be too many layers. This is just 2 layers. And so for the first trim of your center triangle, there's this dotted line. Let's see, I'll put it on the white there. There's the dotted line. You're going to line it up with your fold and then just trim. And this is the only waste you have. When I'm not on camera, I'm a very good trimmer. But of course, I'm sitting. So this is the only waste you have, which is I also love about Deb Tucker's, the way she does things. So yeah, so I've just made 2 center triangles for my V-block units, and they're ready to go. So, and now I have this new angle, and of course, she has a line for that. So, but the first thing you need to do is flip the fabric. Get that? They both start with the letter F. You flip the fabric, and there is a new line. There's this line, center triangle trim line. And I line that up with my new edge and trim. And I have my next two. And now I'm gonna flip the fabric again. I'm doing this weird F thing for a good reason. You'll find out in a second. So now I have this line again, and we're just, so you just keep flipping your fabric, lining it up until you have as many center triangles as you want, depending on the size quilt you're making. So then she also has an ingenious way to cut the side triangles. And it's okay. So this really bold line says cut line for side triangles. And you line it up with the edge of the fabric and trim. And the side triangles are supposed to have this blunt top. So there's the first one. And now you're going to rotate the ruler. Instead of flipping the fabric, you're going to rotate the ruler, R's and F's. So I rotated the ruler, and she has this extended diagonal. And I'm going to line that up with the edge that I've just cut.
So cool.
I know. Well, yeah, and so many of these shapes, you end up wasting fabric, but she has figured out how to really cleanly and understandably have all the info you need on one ruler. So you're just going to keep going along your strip and rotating and trimming, and you're not wasting any fabric. So pretend that I've cut like, 100 of each. I'm good. And then what I like to do is get all of my center triangles right side up, and I just stack them neatly-ish. And then it really can get confusing which edge to sew to which edge. So I orient my side triangles to my center triangles. Because my side triangles in this project are solids, I don't have to worry about them being right side up or upside down, but if they weren't, I would make sure that all of my side triangles are also facing up. And so once I get all of my center triangles stacked up, all of my two side triangles stacked up, I just move one set of side triangles off to the side, and I start chain piecing. So I'm just going to flip my side triangle on top of the center triangle, right sides together, line up this point, and sew at a 1/4 inch seam, and then just keep on going, and ta-da! So this is, I'm sorry that I'm using a different solid, but same idea. You just chain piece all your side triangles on one side, trim them apart, and you'll press them toward the side triangle. Deb Tucker says you can press them either direction, but I find if you press them toward the center triangle, it just gets really, really thick right near the point. So after you have, chain pieced your first side triangles, press them toward the side triangle, then I take my next pile of side triangles and chain piece them. It's the same idea. It just looks like a whole bunch of flags, just like the first one. And Then you press toward this side triangle, and oh, this one's already been trimmed, but you have your unit ready to trim. And if you've watched my other Deb Tucker videos, you know, oh, no, I'm good. Thank you. I've made so many samples, they're all over the room. The magic of the Deb Tucker rulers is the trimming. So she gave you all the info you need to cut your pieces, you sew them together, and now it's time to trim them to exactly the size that you want. And the way you trim using the V-block ruler is that you start in the valley position, so the V position, and you line up the finished size of the unit you're making. So our finished size is going to be 4 inches. And I have the diagonals right here. And I'm just going to trim 2 sides. Oh, sitting and trimming is a skill that I will perfect, but have not perfected yet. So you trim the first 2 sides, and then you rotate your unit so it's kind of in the mountain orientation, and then you're going to line up your cut size. So here is the 4.5 and the 4.5. I'm not sure why Deb Tucker has you start with your finished size and then trim to your cut size, but as someone who gets mixed up really easily, I have not found it really confusing at all. So it works, I promise. So you're gonna trim and trim, and let's see, it gets kind of thick. And then, so you'll see that down here, you might be concerned that it's not a 1/4 inch, but if you go a 1/4 inch up, it will be the 1/4 inch, and your units will go together perfectly. So the final step to get your units ready to sew into the quilt is just trimming them. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the layout. So since I kind of made this pattern up, you can lay it out however you want. I wanted to kind of stagger the diamonds so that I would have this secondary design, but I love this is a simple flannel design wall. So I have started laying out my table runner. Of course, if it were a real table runner, it would be much longer and probably 1 more wide. But I kind of like this design. I feel like I've randomly scattered the different fabrics. So pretending that it's super long, it's ready for me to sew it together. And just like I did on Saturday, you simply think about row 1, row 2, and row 3. And I'm going to pick up the first unit of row 1 and put it on the second unit, on top of the third, on top of the fourth. And I could just keep going till the cows come home. And then I'm going to pin at the top. And I can take this row 1 to the right of my machine. And then same thing with row 2. Pin at the top. And I'm sorry that the right of my machine is not the pristine project area it should be. And then row 3, doing the same thing. And in the YouTube version of this video, I will include a card with a link to my chain piecing a 9-unit block video, which shows this a little with a really small block. But now I've got all my rows lined up here next to my machine. And just like in the other video, I can start piecing my units. And I just want to I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, oops, and I'm going to use a marker. So this is row 1, and I'm just going to, oh my gosh. I'm going to sew this one, and then I'm going to show you a little trick because I've pressed all of the units toward the side triangles, and I really feel like that's the best way to press this unit. They get a little thick, and this one got a little thick. I should have. Especially when 2 points are going to meet together. So this is the same concept as I showed in my Sewing with Denim video, where we used a big jig, because so right here at this point, it's really quite thick. There's a lot of layers of fabric. I'm not nesting my seams because it just didn't really work for me. So I'm going to put my needle down, and whenever you have a thick seam, you want to make sure that your foot, your presser foot, doesn't become diagonal. You always want it to be parallel to the feed dogs. And so I'm just making a nice thick piece of fabric to keep the upper part of the foot up. And then as I come off the little mountain, I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to put my thick piece down again, and be careful not to sew it. I'm going to move it a little there. Yeah, so we just want to make sure that your presser foot is not diagonally going up and down the mountain. Well, if it goes diagonal, then it's going to, it's not going to move the top fabric at the same rate as the bottom fabric. And so that's what happens when when you think you've got your points lined up perfectly and you carefully sew, but for some reason it's not working, and that's because the top fabric is not moving at the same pace as the bottom fabric, and so it's getting maybe pushed, and so your points don't match up anymore. Oh, another thing to be careful with this method is when you're sewing your triangles, there is a lot of bias going on. And so I'm using the dual feed on my machine. And if you have a dual feed, that's a really good idea, because then it doesn't get as wavy. And if you don't have a dual feed, you may want to use a walking foot. But so I've chain pieced my first column, and just like with my chain piece video that I will link to, I know it's ready to press. I know, so it's ready to press, and then I will press this before I start on the next row, but I'm ready for row 2 now, or I guess column 3. So I will just move my thing down and flip it over and sew that seam. Oh, I think it was this way. But that is how you make a V-block, and that's how you make this really fun table runner. And if you like the fabric in the finished one I showed you, You may want to subscribe to our quilting cotton swatch service for fall 2020, and you can find that at the website at theconfidentstitch.com. Join me on Saturday. I will be showing you how to make a flutter sleeve. And then next Wednesday, I'm going to start my knit series. So we have a lot of fun stuff coming up, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching.